All right, so we're about an hour in, so let's go on to color correcting. Okay, so Adobe Premiere now, there's another program called DaVinci that I heard is really great at color correcting, but you can do so much with Adobe. It's such a great it's such a great program for so many different things. But to let us cover up, I'm going to go ahead and move this text to the end because I want to really focus on color correcting this bird, right? All right, so we're going to click on him. We're going to go over to our effects panel and Lumetri color, okay? We're going to go to Lumetri color. We're going to close these. We're going to go color correction, Lumetri color. Now, whatever effect that you want on whatever element you have here, you literally just drag and drop it to this element on your timeline. Now, when I drag and drop this, see, just pay attention to what happens over here in your effect controls. So you want to take this, drag and drop it right on top. And now it gives me the options for that effect that I dropped on my element on my timeline, okay? So here are all of your options of different things you can do. You can do so much with color. All right, so let's just drop down for basic correction, for example. Let's play around with some things. So you can change, if you look at my image, you can change the temperature of your image, okay? You can also keyframe your temperature. Say at the beginning, I wanted to keep it this way. But as I went further into my image, I want to change the temperature to a little warmer. If I was to play it, it gets warmer. Okay, it was just a slight thing, but it does that. You can keyframe everything because sometimes you want something to start one way, but you don't want it to end that way. So easy enough. Now, wait, hold on. I'll show you. If I'm like, I don't want any of those keyframes. I was just showing as an example, of course. So I want to take those off. I can click on each keyframe and I can delete it. Or I can click over here on the stopwatch, click on it to take them off. This action will delete existing keyframes. That's okay. That's what I want. I say okay, and it deletes all my keyframes at once. Okay. All right. So my temperature, I don't want it to be that warm. So let's take it back. If I want to take anything back, I click here. All right. So tint, you can do different things there. Exposure, you get the idea. You can play around with a lot of things. You want more contrast, you want less contrast, you know, it's pretty self-explanatory, but you can play around with all these different things there, okay? So you can just blacks and whites, it makes the blacks more intense, you know. All right, so that's pretty self-explanatory. If I want to add saturation, like sometimes you'll have something like if you shoot something and say your lighting wasn't that great and you want to add like just a punch of color, saturation helps, but you have to obviously use a little finesse to it, but you can add a little punch of color and it makes it more vibrant. But you can play around with all of these different things here in Lumetri Color. It's really a great tool. I actually like that extra saturation. All right. So creative, these are color wheels. So if you move this around, it changes it here. I feel like this is a little bit more challenging to use, but it's more subtle. So sometimes you just want subtle color changes. If you see my image, it's just subtly changing. But that is definitely useful. Curves. So say I want to work on the reds. So I clicked on the red here and it's just working with my reds, adding them and take them away. I mean, it's just sort of common sense stuff, but if you're really trying to work on something, sometimes if you shoot somebody and their skin tone is like too red or too cool, this is a great way just to add a little bit of finesse to it. It's just a really great tool. This eyedropper tool, hue versus saturation. The saturation curves, you just take your little eyedropper and say the yellow. Hold on, let me go back one. And I want to really work on the yellow, and then you can just really focus on one color. And that's really good if you have highlights and there's like a shiny spot on someone's head and you just want to work on that area, that's good. You don't want to change the whole image and dull it, but you can just change that color, or it's just a really, really, really intuitive, excellent tool. I love it. All right, so that's Lumetri Color.